everyone, Egman here with another video. And today we've got my Lord Slug Deck profile that I went 6-2, getting top 32 in the webcam regional that happened, hosted by PPG. This is a really cool leader, and I know this has been out for almost two plus months, and I haven't seen a lot of people use it. I really like it. You guys know I like green, and I like hand destruction, and this is kind of like a hand control deck. But in general, I think this leader is a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for, and definitely in best of one. I'd say best of one, this is a really good leader for best of one formats. Maybe not as much as in best of three, but we're going to talk about this guy. And then also we're going to talk about we also have Battle Evolution coming out already, so I have some suggestions for it to be better with that set as well. And also this deck can kind of be a little bit expensive on face value, but I'll give you some advice for cards to replace for some of the more expensive ones, or the minimum ratios I'd say you could get away with, and go from there. Also, I have all of my matches recorded from this weekend, so that will be uploaded tomorrow as of recording. So this will be on Monday the 29th, so it could be also already on my channel or in the description of this video. So if you want to see the matches and how it did, you can just watch that. But let's go into this leader itself. It's Lord Slug. It has an auto. When this card attacks, you and your opponent draw one card. A lot of people give me weird looks, and they don't realize that we both draw one when I first swing with it the first time I play him. But it doesn't sound good, right? It just goes against all modern card game, mechanics and everything like that. But it's fine. It's what you want. It's super good. And you'll see why in the cards that take advantage of it. And then it has two ways to awaken. It has the regular way. When your life is at 4 or less, you and your opponent may draw one card, then switch up to 2 of your energy to active mode, then flip this card over. And then auto, if you have 3 or more green energy, when you activate a Rejuvenate skill, draw 2 cards and flip this card over. So if you use Rejuvenate, you just draw 2, and then if you need to just awaken, you do an untap 2 and draw 1. I'd rather the Rejuvenate was just both players drew cards, or energy untapping, because it's really tempting to I'll talk about it later, but it's fine how it is. I wish once again Rejuvenate being able to untap would have been great, but we're good here. And on the backside, we are a 20k leader, which is super nice for swinging over things, especially a 20k chunky unison. Just being able to swing into it without having to worry about it, it's nice. It does have a permanent. If your opponent has 7 or fewer cards in their hand, this card gets minus 5k power during battles on your opponent's turn. So it doesn't, if your opponent has a small hand, then you're back to a 15k. But it just means that they have to combo more, use more cards in their hand to combo, which kind of feels nice. And then also auto, when this card attacks you and your opponent, draw 1, which is great as well. And then also activate once per turn. If your opponent has 10 or more cards in their hand, play up to 1 mono green slug army card with any cost of 2 or less in your drop area. This is a really good skill, and it's super easy to get your opponent to 10 cards, especially if they don't know what your deck does and they keep cards in their hand. They have ways to put cards at the bottom of the deck, as we'll talk about later, but a lot of people don't do that, and they don't understand that. It's totally fine with me you having a 12 card hand, because I get a bunch of my effects off and I can really easily build a board with it, which is super nice. So that's this guy right here. Really like him. And let's go into our cards. Unisons, I only run 4. You can run more if you want, but I never had an issue just having these 4. It is the King Piccolo. It's kind of like the green Rejuvenate one. It has Rejuvenate if you guys don't know what it does. Once per turn, if your lead card is green and you remove 4 markers from this card, and it's not a plus or minus skill, so you can do the +1 here and Rejuvenate on the same turn. You're able to take 1 card underneath it, put it in the drop area, and then take the top card from your deck, put it in your life. Also, as activating for 1 green, if your leader card is mono green and your opponent has 7 more cards in their hand, you can play this card for your hand with a marker on it. You can't play using cards for the turn, so you can get this out turn 1 if your opponent's, if your opponent just does something and then you just swing here, make them draw a card with your leader, and then you get 7. You can get this guy out for 1, which is great because it's a 15k. And then after that, you're able to use its +1, which is activate. Choose 1 card in your hand, place it underneath this card. You and your opponent draw 1, and then you choose up to 1 green battle card, the original cost of 1 in your hand, play it. At the end of your turn, your opponent chooses up to 1 card in their hand, place it at the bottom of their deck. So just being able to do that is super great. Being able to free play 1-drop is fantastic, especially if you're able to keep this guy alive. You're able to just keep a lot of advantage. Now, I will say the 1-drops we have right now, we'll just jump on into it. So we've got 4 of the Lord Slug Conqueror Restored and 4 of the promo Surprise Attack Angela. This totally should have been in the main set. I don't know why this is a promo, but because it just does, when this card's played from your hand, look at the top 5 cards from your deck, add up to 1 mono green slug army, any cost of 3 or less, or up to 1 mono green unison card with any or specified cost of 2 among them to your hand and shuffle your deck. So this is like a super good card, and once again, both these pretty much draw cards when you play them from this as well, so it's good. And then we also have Lord Slug Conqueror Restore. This is kind of like the part of the reason this deck works. It has unique, which kind of sucks because like you don't have like a lot of targets for this, but we'll get more in Battle Evolution. Spoilers, like you definitely want to run this card. But so Lord Slug Conqueror Restored. If your lead card is Slug Army, when this card is played from your hand, you and your opponent draw 1 at the end of your turn. Your opponent chooses up to 1 card in their hand and places it to the bottom of their deck. So I guess one real quick too is that later in like a lot of these effects, like some of the effects, like your opponent, put cards to the bottom of their deck at the end of the turn, which I think is fine. It kind of balances it, and mostly like turn 1, turn 2, your opponent won't do it until spoilers. This is a mill deck. If you haven't already noticed, I'll probably have it in the title, but I haven't said it yet. This is a mill deck, which people don't really understand until I like casually mention on turn 3 or 4, like, hey, how many cards do you have in your deck? And they're like, oh, I only have 10. And so that's kind of like your main win condition for this deck, is that you just kind of control the board, generate a lot of advantage from your dudes. You get really giant boards with this deck, and then from there you just make your opponent mill out and like play like really like bad cards. Like play really inefficiently, I guess. But this guy is super nice, and also has an active main. If your lead card is Slug Army and your opponent has 7 more cards in their hand, which is super duper easy to do that, and 1 or more energy, choose up to 1 mono green Slug Army card with 19k power or less in your hand, play it, and you can't activate main skills on copies of this card for turn. So this card just lets you free play cards for pretty much the entire game, which is super nice. Being able to play a free 3-drop every turn helps this deck a lot. A lot of our 3-drops are really handy, and it can also be a 2-drop as well. It just has to be a 19k or less Slug Army, but those are really good. So those are those cards there. Most of these are decks like our opening plays, and then going to our 2-drops, we have a bunch of cards. So we'll just look at these 8 real quick. These cards just activate in our drop area, which is fantastic. They gain a lot of advantage for us, and we'll just see. Like, it's really easy to get these guys in your drop area too. We know what Roshi does. We'll see why we run Roshi. It's going to be very clear. But we also have this new meta matcha, Invader Earth. Activating for 1 green, your leader card is a Slug Army card. All of your energy is mono green, and you send this card from your drop area to your warp. Add up to 1 card from your life to your hand. Play 1 meta token, which is just this guy, which is a 5k body with a 5k combo, so not bad. And then also, you and your opponent draw 2 cards. At the end of the turn, your opponent chooses up to 2 cards in the hand and place it at the bottom of the deck. You can't activate the main skills and copy this card for the turn. If you could do like all these in one turn, like make your opponent like draw 8 cards for 4, that'd be broken. But being able to 1 for 1 energy, just being able to draw 2 cards and like refill your own stuff is super duper handy. Being able to like self awaken if you need to. Sometimes people stall you at 5. And being able to pay 1 energy to go from 5 to 4 is really handy, so you can awaken and get your 2. And then, you definitely want to be awakened as soon as possible, because you want to be able to use your active main to play cards from your drop areas as soon as possible. And this is normally just like your winner, too. Like, if you're able to get this guy off and make your, like, just burst your opponent from, like, 6 cards to deck to 0, this definitely is helpful because it just does that. He's really good. You definitely want to run for that guy. We also have the Lord Slug Return to Form. It's an old card, but just super simple. When you play this card, choose up to 1 Slug Army card from your deck with any cost of 4 or less. Add to your hand, then shuffle your deck. This is like most of your deck. You can play this card for free with. You can play it for free with this guy if you want to. I'll just put this. He can play a lot of free cards. This guy is also good for your one of the best targets for the active main for your Lord Slug. Being able to play a body and then like search for like almost any card you need is amazing. So it just offers a lot of consistency. You can maybe run 4 if you want. I found 3 was fine, and I didn't really have an issue with that, especially because we'll talk about it for a bit as well. I'll put them right here actually. You also run 3 of the Zuin, the Loyal, just a free blocker. If you want to run 4, go for it. I don't think it was a bad call. I just ran 3 because of my ratios, but just being able to play a free blocker is amazing. It helps your own hand size a lot of the time. Being able to play have a blocker in general is helpful. And then also, you're able to play this for free from your deck or from your drop area with your leader as well, if that's what you need to do. For our super combos, we're running 4 Giroux. So I felt like we already we drew enough cards already with all our stuff. we wanted to, like, just being able to just put a meta matcha in our drop area if we needed to, or a Master Roshi in our drop area if we needed to. I just felt like was too important, so we did that instead. So that's why we're running for this guy. And just being able to have, like, sometimes we're at like 6 or 7 life, and being able to use our super combo whenever I felt was important enough as well. So we're running him. Going to our 3 drops, we are running 4 of each of the 3 drops from the new set and the promos. This card actually like overperformed for me a lot of the time. Probably one of the counters for this deck is Black Mass Saiyan, because you play a bunch of things for free. But this 1-drop Slug can play this guy, which is a 19k, which means it gets over Black Mass Saiyan. And then when this card, if all your energy is mono green, when you play this card from your hand, you and your opponent draw 1 card, then you choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, KO it. At the end of your turn, your opponent chooses up to 1 card in their hand and places it to the bottom of their deck. So you just get to pop literally anything without barrier, which is fantastic. And then being able to, after that, just like make your opponent draw 1 card if they need to do that too. I felt like this card's good. I really like this card, but he doesn't have any protection, and your opponent can KO it. But it has Deflect, Auto Bond 2. If you're a leader card, Slug Army, when your opponent uses a card in a combo, you may place the card in its owner's drop area. If you do, you and your opponent draw 1, then negate the skill for the turn. This is really good. It sounds like, oh, we both draw 1, but you get to draw, like, this is how you plus, because you have to draw, and also this skill doesn't put cards to the bottom of your deck. So just having this out and make your opponent like draw, like, this is like works on both turns. If you can make this live like 1 set, this card lets you draw 2 essentially, which is super handy. And also auto, when this card is removed from your battle area by opponent's skill, your opponent has 7 or more cards in their hand, play up to 1 green Slug Army card with any cost of 1 in your drop area. So you can find this or this. You can also, like, the only other card that I would say that's like a 1-drop Slug Army, you can run Wings if you want. He's good because he has barrier, so I could consider like running 1 or 2 of these if you really want to. I don't think it's a bad call. All these guys have 3 specific costs. This guy has 1 specific cost, so you can play him for 1. Like, that's like one of the few ways to like get like less energy. But there's most of the guys have like specific costs of 2, are like all have all their green dots, so you can't really cheat a bunch of things with Wings. But if you want just more 1-drop targets, you can definitely do that. I'd say at least 4 of this guy here. You gotta run 4 of this guy, I felt like, and like at least 3 of this guy. If you want to only run 3, you can, but you still gotta run him. He's a good card target for that. We also have 3 Angela, Invader of Earth. This card's actually pretty handy every once in a while. If your leader card is a Slug Army and all your energy is mono green, when this card is played from your hand, activate the skill at the end of your turn. If you have 6 or fewer cards in your hand and your opponent has 10 or more cards in your hand, draw 3. Just being able to draw 3 is amazing, especially on a body like this 19k. I run it every once in a while. Just, you know, if your opponent's kind of just is like exactly at 10, you can kind of cheese this out, make them draw up to 10, or like make you draw 3, and then you have about the same hand size and everything else. Handy. I'd say run 2 or 3. This card's searchable with this guy as well, so there's that. Probably one of the weakest cards in the deck. Actually, these cards are just the weakest in general. I never played the 5-drop, and I played the 4-drop every once in a while. I don't think you guys need these. They just don't do anything. Like, this is a good board clear, but if you want to run board clears, I think there's better options. And like, playing this for like a hard cast for 5 just felt bad anytime like I had the option for it. I felt like there's just better plays. So I didn't like this card. You can probably take him out. And I think this card's neat. It's an old card, Autobahn 2, Slug Army. It's a 4 cost. When you play this card, if your leader card is Slug Army, choose up to 1 Slug Army with from your drop area with any cost of 3 or less and play it, then choose up to 1 of your energy and switch to active mode. So being able to do that's nice. If you end up playing like 1 or 2 Wings, this guy can be a 3-drop. So like, you can hard cast this turn 3, and then you still get to untap an energy. You do have to worry about like whole Bloodlust like effects that make it so you can't get your untap. But like, being able to play this guy and then get like, I don't know, most of these you have to play them from your hand as well. Yeah, if this is played from hand and this is played from hand as well. But like, getting more of these guys out, you can definitely do that. I think it's worth it. Definitely take these guys out. I don't think they're worth it in what you're seeing. But there's that. But I think maybe like a couple of these are okay. I definitely would say that this 5-drop Slug can probably go for Kakunsa, which is a new card from the Evolution Booster. If you don't know what it does real quick. Unique, which kind of sucks, but I understand. But it is a 1-drop you can play off your Unison. And when this card is played, you just get to draw 1, which is nice. And then also active main, once per turn, burst 2. If your opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand and 3 or more energy, this card gets plus 16k power and double strike until the start of your next main phase. So it's a 20k, and then you can make it double strike. most of the way we win is just by making our opponent mill themselves, but there's times where we can just apply pressure because we have huge hands and like huge boards. Even though they have a huge hand themselves, we can just kind of make it worth it from there. All right, and then kind of the expensive cards. We've got 4 Frieza Charismatic Villain because we're running a Unison. This card's just amazing at anything it does. So just run this guy, run as many you can. You don't need to run 4. I think you can get away with 3 if you have 4. Do it. It's a 5K and green, so like you're never losing anything. But it's just such a good card. So you need these kinda run as many as you can. You don't have to get 4 if it's a budget thing, but there. We're also running Celzino because this is like a broken card. This won me a lot of games just because like your opponent's not expecting it. We make giant boards, so getting 12 is just easy, especially since you're able to you can just super duper easily make your opponent mill 3. Like if they're playing the game like, oh, we're gonna make it so like towards the end of the game they're like, oh, I'm gonna have a small hand size so they don't get their effects. Then you just pop this and then they're just like lose 3 cards. And we can get to 5 energy. I think I got to 5 energy at least every game. So this was like an option. We cycle so much. It's super like it's not terrible to find this guy, and I think he's worth it. If you don't have the money for him, which I don't blame you, I think Fu Shrouded Mystery is definitely like a good backup for it. It's 1 turn later, but just being able to play this, we don't overwhelm anything in this deck. So being able to play this for 6, have a double strike, and make all your opponents not be able to do any effects when you have like a super wide board, I think is also very powerful. So I'd say like this before I had this card, I'd say I'd run this, and I think it's a good call there. And then going to our extra cards real quick, we have 2 Assimilates. This is amazing. Being able to just like this is part of the reason the deck is so good. You can find a lot of your cards, especially like these 2. Our main targets for it. I think they're actually the only targets, but that's totally fine because these are just great cards to have extra copies of. So you can use this, and then you can use Lord Slug, and then you can use Lord Slug here to find literally any Slug army you need for the rest of your deck, which is good. We also run 4 Dormant Potentials, which is super obnoxious when you're playing a control deck, and you're also running 4 Master Roshis. It's super consistent just to find it every turn. I very often just Dormant Potential every turn. We have the card advantage in our hand because we keep we draw as much as our opponent does, so that's super handy. And we get this to our drop area really easily with their super combos and stuff. Obviously we can do up to 8 dormants, but I normally do like 3 or 4 really consistently in this deck, which is nice, especially since we have our free-to-play blockers that really help us out. This really helps us survive the entire game and makes it so like even though our opponent has such a big hand advantage on us a lot of the time, or just has so many cards in hand, if they can't actually swing on us, we're not actually afraid. So I would say you should run at least, if you can only have 2 of this card, you're fine. You definitely want to run as many as you can, but you can probably get away with as little as 2, I think. But this card really helps us live long enough to really make a wide board and punish our opponent. And then lastly, we have 3 Sacrifice. It's just a great negate. Negate the attack permanent if you're the Curse Mechanic when this card's counter skill. When you activate this card's counter, you may choose 1 card in your life and add to your hand. If you do, you can activate this card's counter skill without paying its energy cost. I know Shocking Death Ball is technically better, but we kind of already have that in Dormant Potential. Just the fact that you're able to use this guy whenever is, I think, really good, especially like early turns when you can shut your opponent off. And just the fact like you're able to, I don't know, I just found like this card was more useful than being able to use a Shocking Death Ball to pop 2, having Sparking. Just because how it was. If you think Shocking Death Ball is better, do it, but I think Sacrifice is slightly better in my mind. I never had a point where I'm like, man, I wish I could pop a 2-drop or less, because Dormant Potential was already kind of doing that, and I had a bunch of like popping stuff anyways. I wasn't really worried. But that's the deck. Let me know what you guys think about it. I think Kakunsa here will be a great addition to it. I think for sure the 4 and 5 drops can probably be taken out for something nicer for the package. Or even I've experimented with wings a lot too. So if you have wings, you kind of want to have this 4-drop in it. Like even just 2 of it, just because like playing this card for 3 and getting out 2 bodies, and actually you playing this card for 2 technically and getting out an extra body is actually really powerful. So if you play a couple copies of wings, then you should probably play a couple copies of this guy. Kakunsa, just because it's a 1-drop that you can use for your unison, and then also you get some card draw, and it's a potential like double strike win condition happening. So there's that. There's so many decks, especially like Dark Broly and stuff, that just awaken themselves for you, and then like sure they have a big hand, but like they also only have like 2 or 3 life, and you can really punish them if they go a little bit too hard and heavy, thinking that you won't really finish the game, and you totally can. But I think that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much again for watching. Let me know what you guys think about this. Once again, the gameplay should be up tomorrow after this video is released, so Monday the 29th. Check the description of this video if it's Monday, and it will probably be there. And that'll be it for me. So thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate all the support, and I'll catch you all next time.